Lower back pain. It's painful, excruciating, and in some cases, life-threatening. Now, though there are thousands of YouTube videos and sources about this topic, they're all hiding something from you. Something I personally use in order to solve my own low back pain in a matter of weeks. Because in today's video, I want to share with you everything that worked for me. Because I understand just how painful and excruciating lower back pain can truly be. This is the full guide to solving lower back pain in less than 5 minutes. Now, before we move on to the actual exercises to solve lower back pain, we need to know what causes lower back pain, because without knowing the actual cause, you might be spamming useless exercises that may not help lower back pain, and in the worst case scenario, damage our back even further. Now, lower back pain is scientifically referred to as anterior pelvic toe, or lower cross syndrome, and this is a muscular imbalance between tight and weak muscle groups. Your tight muscles include your erector spinae and your hip flexors, while your weak muscles include your abdominals and your gluteals. And it's important to stretch the tight muscles, but it's also important to strengthen the weak muscles. And this is something that most videos actually won't tell you to do, because if you don't strengthen the weak muscles, no matter how much time you stretch the tight muscles, your posture will not get any better. So the question is, how do you strengthen the weak muscles? Now, this is pretty easy, and there's 2 basic exercises that you can do in order to solve this. First, for your abdominals, I'd recommend the hanging leg raises. Now, if this exercise is way too easy for you, I'd recommend you do dragon flex, an exercise developed by Bruce Lee, which I personally use myself to develop my core. If this exercise is too hard for you, tuck your knees in for easier variation, or even go down on the floor and do lying leg raises. Now for your gluteals. Your gluteals, aka your gluteus maximus, and your butt muscles are responsible for pushing your hip up. And this is perfect and synergized with the hip thrust. The hip thrust may seem a bit suspicious as an exercise, but this is an extremely functional and useful exercise that even top performing athletes use in order to develop power and strength in their kicks and sprints. Once again, with these exercises, focus on progressive overload, getting stronger over time, and focus on form over weight. Focus on that mind-muscle connection. Make sure you're targeting the previously mentioned weak muscle groups. Now, let's move on to how to stretch the tight muscle groups. Now, there are thousands of exercises you can do to stretch them. However, to oversimplify this video, I'll be giving you the 2 best exercises in order to stretch your weak muscle groups. First exercise I'd recommend is the kneeling hip flexor stretch. Kneel down on the floor and push your hip that you want to stretch out and forwards. This is opposite of the contraction movement that hip flexor usually does. If you are unable to do this exercise, I recommend you do the standing variation, which is the standing quad stretch, and focus on the same thing, pushing your hip that you want to stretch forwards. Now, let's move on to how to stretch the erector spinae, and there are thousands of exercises you can do to stretch this. However, the best, simple, and most effective movement is the child's pose. Once again, this exercise is pretty self-explanatory, and basically, I think anyone could do this. Or if you are uncomfortable doing the child's pose, you can do any exercise that allows your back to be rounded in the shape as shown below. Now, all of this advice is very applicable and scientific, but what if I told you there's an even better way to solving lower back pain? One I personally use in order to solve my lower back pain in a matter of weeks, and that is start resistance training, or specifically start training pulling movements like rows and lat pull-downs. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, however, by doing these movements and contracting your muscles, you are contracting and strengthening your weak muscle groups, and in the eccentric portion, aka the stretch portion of the exercise, you are actually stretching your tight muscle groups. I still recommend you follow the previously mentioned scientific methods to solving lower back pain. However, without application, dedication, and discipline, you are never ever going to solve lower back pain. So what better time to start than right now? If you want further explanation, I recommend you follow and watch these videos on the screen right now, link in the description. Thank you for watching. Peace.